Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a major snowstorm along with severe weather and then a strong cold front for the second week of May. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Here's the overall surface map. I kind of expanded the view so you can get an overall big picture of what's really happening. You can see this diving system off the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be our next cold front that's going to be diving through the plains. It's going to set off the round of severe weather for later on tomorrow evening. And you can see it's pretty much crystal clear in the Caribbean. We did have that cold front that moved through Florida. Now that's off the coast. That brought all the rains into Florida, and you can see it's pretty crystal clear in the Caribbean. And then out here in the Pacific, this little feature stands out for you. I don't really expect this to be tropical, but we are going to be having to start to look because hurricane season is right around the corner, and in the Pacific it actually starts May 15th, so that's only 8 days away. And then even in the Atlantic, the National Hurricane Center will start issuing updates 4 times a day starting on May 15th this year, 2 weeks earlier. Then the season will actually start officially for June 1st, and that'll go all the way through November 30th. So let me walk you through the overall surface map. And again, I expanded this to the North American view so you can really get a depiction on what's happening into Alaska as well as into Canada and much of the US here. So we can see this diving trough that's going to be coming off the Pacific Northwest. That's got some cold air behind it, guys, and that's going to bring some snow in the upper elevations into Canada, going into Washington here this afternoon. That trough will start to dig southeast and continue diving southeast as we go through the day over tonight, especially as we go into tomorrow, dragging that colder air back behind it. Now we've got snow flying into Idaho again. Those ski resorts are going to be happy up there, going to portions of Montana, and that will set the stage for some rain out into Minnesota here, into Iowa. And then as this cold front will dive down to the central part of the U.S. as we get into the evening hours, we are going to be warming up down to the south, and we're going to have that clash in temperatures, and that's going to be setting the stage for around severe weather for the plains, because you can definitely see the temperature differences down to the south. We're going to be well into the 80s in much of Texas, much of Oklahoma, much of Kansas, and then these 20 degree below average temperatures will be diving in from North Dakota, from Canada, and where that clash is, where that triple point is. And I do think it's going to be an evening type setup. Unfortunately, for the plains, we could be looking at some strong to severe thunderstorms and some big time hail producers out there, because the Storm Prediction Center has already has a slight risk, but a hatched risk as well for those bigger hailstones. We're talking to that ping pong, that tennis ball, that baseball type variety type stuff, some dangerous stuff, car window bashing stuff out there into Wichita, Kansas, getting into Salina, Kansas, Manhattan, Hutchinson, into Dodge City. Those cities are going to be under the gun for those larger hailstones. And then even into Wichita, going into Topeka, get into Lawrence, much of Manhattan again. We're going to be, still could see that quarter size type hail, and along that dry line extending all the way into West Texas, where that heat where you really start to heat up. You could be firing some larger hailstones even down into Fort Stockton, getting into Midland, going into Abilene, as well as Lubbock, up here along into Oklahoma City. So you're still could see some of those larger hailstones even into portions of Missouri, into Kansas City. It's not out of the question, right along that dry line and where that that clash in temperatures meet. And the tornado aspect will be a little bit higher as well. So right along, unfortunately, where you're getting that hatched risk area, you're also going to be a little bit higher threat for those tornadoes as well. And this is going to be a nighttime event, guys. So definitely have your weather radios handy, because I do expect this to be, late fall, nighttime, into the overnight hours, going into the Saturday night, going into early Sunday morning. So definitely be on the lookout for that in that region. So as we go through the day and continue into Sunday, that colder temperature will continue to drop south. It slows as it gets down to Texas. So there's some models that have it, going through North Texas around noon. Some of them have it going through a little bit later, about 6 o'clock. But yeah, so we're going to be warming out ahead of the cold front down here in North Texas. We've got those well below average colder anomalies up here to the north, bringing down that colder air. And it's going to be a step down process throughout the week next week. And eventually that colder air will make it all the way down to the south. And you're going to really feel this May cold front in a big way. But before that, we're going to have to be dealing with some severe weather itself out ahead of that front. So you could be looking at some severe weather starting to break out in North Texas, especially as we go into East Texas. And this will be elongating into the Arklatex, getting into the Tennessee Valley with some heavier rains and some moderate rains. And then the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted that threat for more or less a marginal risk in and around the Dallas area because of the timing of the cold front. But once you get in the peak heating of the afternoon, especially as you go into Southeast Texas, getting into East Texas, that's going to be taking advantage of a little bit more daytime temperatures and also setting the stage for a little bit higher susceptibility of those stronger supercell thunderstorms getting into East Texas, going into Waco, Lufkin, getting into Shreveport areas, into Little Rock, going into Tyler, Texas. So all these areas are going to be under the gun for those mainly a hail threat and a damaging wind threat. I don't really see much of a tornado threat out of this type system, but as we'll continue to go through into East Texas, getting into portions of Austin could be right on the borderline from this event, but this will be extending all the way up into the Tennessee Valley, going into portions of Kentucky as well, with a little bit higher risk for that hail threat as well. So as we go into the day on Monday, that cold air will continue to press further south. Now it's going to be covering much of North Texas. I don't really think it makes it much into Central Texas. So there's going to be a sharp difference in temperatures, well above average temperature anomalies and well below average temperature anomalies in Texas. I do feel it goes all the way through North Texas. So when you're looking at, these 20 degrees below average temperatures, that's some chilly stuff for this type of season. I'm expecting highs in the 60s, if not low 60s, in much of Dallas coming up on Monday. But yeah, look at what happens out here in Colorado, where you get those 30 and 35 degree below average anomalies. To give you an idea, the average high right now in Denver is 70. So when you're talking 35 degrees below average, that puts the daytime afternoon temperature at 35 degrees, and that's going to be cold enough to snow again out in the Rockies. And it's not like it's that unusual, but your latest snowfall in Denver is about April the 27th. So this is later than usual than what you would normally see, but I am expecting snow to start flying, especially in the higher elevations of the foothills, and eventually start creeping into to Denver again. We're going to be adding to that 80 plus inch total that you've already seen this year, the biggest snow season you've seen since 1983, 1984. You're going to be adding to those totals with several more inches to come to stack onto that for this year. But before that, ahead of that, with that cold front, it's going to be keep pressing south where the warm air is. That's where the rain's going to be falling into East Texas, going into Louisiana and much of the Southeast by now, getting into Georgia, parts of the Carolinas, and getting into portions of the Northeast as we go into the day on Monday. As we go into Tuesday morning, that snow is still flying. So there's a lot of cold air around. There's a lot of disturbances that keep pressing from the Northwest to the Southeast. And that'll be more or less an overrunning of threat. I think the severe threat really starts to die down in Texas. It's just going to be a rainy, kind of a chilly rain into the 60-degree type rain in North Texas. A little bit, warmer rain down in the central Texas, but some heavier rains could be setting up for much of Texas again, especially as you go into East Texas. And then eventually those heavier rains will extend into Arkansas, and especially getting into portions of Mississippi. But man, that cold air is going to be one of the stories next week. And this is Tuesday. You know, afternoon temperatures, we're still seeing those 20, 30 degree below average temperature anomalies. So this is going to be feeling more like March than it's going to be feeling more like May and some of these places down here in the deep south. But that cold air will still continue to ooze on down from the north and continue to press further south. And yeah, you're really going to feel these colder anomalies, and some of these down into the southeast when your average highs, you know, more or less in the 80s, with it being 5 to 10 degrees below average, you're talking 75, 70 degrees. So that's going to be probably really feeling really nice and comfortable. It's not going to be hot in any shape or fashion, but man, we're going to be looking at some of those heavier snowfall totals entering much of the Pacific Northwest, getting into Idaho, getting into Montana, getting into the Dakotas and Wyoming. The heavier totals are going to get into much of Colorado, into the foothills. You could get easily a foot of snow out of this system, and then probably several more inches of snow coming up for Denver. This would be going from Monday into Tuesday, adding to those totals this year. So yeah, you're going to be adding to those snowfall totals for May. But that will continue to press. There's your Wednesday surface map look. And yeah, with those disturbances and kind of waves of rain that's going to be coming up throughout the week, we'll still have that cold front just sitting in there, just creating those overrunning conditions in much of Texas. So none of this will be severe at this point. This will be just some light to moderate rain, just, you know, throughout the day on Wednesday, and that will start to creep into portions of the southeast as we go into the day on Wednesday. And those colder temperatures will remain locked in with highs in the 60s in much of North Texas. These 20 below average temperature anomalies will be deep in the heart of the plains, getting into Missouri, into Iowa, and then down here to the south. I mean, yeah, look at what happens to the north. We've got that ridge coming in with the positive PNA on the west side. That brings those above average anomalies much of the west, much of Alaska, and even into Canada. We got all those cooler temperatures for much of the central and eastern 2/3 of the U.S. That will continue to press into Thursday as that system will finally be moving out of Texas into the afternoon hours, but that will be shifting into the southeast, getting into the Ohio Valley with some heavier rains, getting into the Carolinas by then, as we see a diving system come off into portions of Alaska. That will be setting up yet another cold front that's going to be coming through on the weekend. So, but as you look through Thursday, yeah, those colder temperatures will continue just to increase into the west, into Canada here, and much of the cold air gets trapped underneath into the United States, and that will shift further into the eastern part of the United States, getting into the Ohio Valley again, getting into the East Coast, where they're going to be starting to feel the effects of this colder temperatures for the week. And as that trough, where the warmer temperatures are still going to be into Friday, that's where the rain's going to be. So back behind it, you'll get that cooler air. But yeah, you're going to have to be dealing with some of those rains getting into portions of the Northeast coming up on Friday. And then Saturday, there's your Saturday look. Just when you think it's going to start warming up for the central U.S., we got those colder temperatures trying to press out. We've got those colder temperatures moving off the East Coast. Look what happens to the north. We got yet another cold front coming through Canada with just a reinforcing shot of colder air for the weekend and bringing down those cooler temperatures again for May. Yeah, this will be May 15th now. So it's definitely not going to be hot. It's not going to be having trying to warm up for the middle of the week. By the weekend, it's going to be having another cool shot coming through, just more of a reinforcing shot of cooler air, and that will just continue to press into the day on Sunday. So man, that you're going to have to be dealing with that snow this week. You're going to have to be dealing with the severe weather and much of the rains that's going to be happening to much of the south and the central U.S. But yeah, so it's a big week ahead. It's more of a cooler week, not a typical week for May, that's for sure. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.